I guess what we've tried to do is make something really high-tech look low-tech. At the end of the day, you need to identify your client before you can actually work with them. We even had one of our clients say, you nearly make AML fun.
You know, what does RealAML do, and how does this product face match fit into where you want to head as a company?
Well, in essence, RealAML helps New Zealand companies that fall under anti-money laundering legislation identify their clients without a doubt. And we do that through a number of proprietary algorithms that we've created that reaches out to particular data sources depending on the client's location, the demographics, to verify them according to the DIA's code of practice. So the identity component is one part of what we offer, because if I knew your date of birth and your address, which I'm not going to ask you, I could technically identify you. But legislation states that you also need to implement a mechanism to link that person to their claimed identity. And the legislation specifically states biometrics is one of those mechanisms, which is what we see as the most robust. There's other ways of linking someone to their claimed identity. You can ask them a secret question about their finance or social situation that isn't public knowledge. But it gets a little bit trickier in that, I guess, regard. So we find that biometrics is just a simple solution where, you know, our clients, lawyers, accounting firms, financial firms, can send an SMS to their customer. And if they get a report that says pass, they can be certain that they've been compliantly identified and linked to their claimed identity.
So your businesses that you're providing the service to are ones that are covered within the anti-money laundering law within New Zealand, that when a lawyer or an accountant or a bank is undertaking a transaction on behalf of their client, they need to make sure the client is who they say they are before executing on that transaction. Have I got that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so they can't start work on behalf of their client until they actually undertake that AML check or that identity check. And it varies, you know, for individuals, it's fairly straightforward. When it comes to sort of entities, complex company structures or trusts, there's a little bit more paperwork. But at the end of the day, you need to identify your client before you can actually work with them. And so we help businesses, I guess, do business faster, regardless of where their clients are located.
Because I think if you were to ask a lot of lawyers or those that work in banking, that, you know, a lot of times this identity part is, it just feels like red tape and compliance, because New Zealand's a small country. We kind of know a lot of the customers either as friends or family, or at least we've had a long client relationship with them. And then you've got to prove the identity of someone you know. It seems, you know, you're always giving your driver's license back to someone that you've known since your own kids were born. Does this reduce that compliance overhead rather than eliminate it? Is that how it would be positioned?
Yeah, well, obviously, you know, you can't eliminate compliance as much as everyone would like to, but it certainly eliminates a lot of the burdens associated with it. So I guess our platform replaces the need for these reporting entities that are captured under the AML legislation to actually collect copies of ID documents. They don't need to get clients to come into the office and drive, you know, 30 minutes across town just to deliver a passport and a utility bill for them to scan. They can send them a link and can be onboarded in under 60 seconds. So it's a win-win for both the business and their client.
I actually tried this yesterday as part of kind of prepping myself on what RealAML does. I thought, how easy is it going to be? Because your press release said in under 60 seconds. I'm thinking, oh yeah, let's see how quick it actually is. But it didn't take that long at all. Like, I actually set myself up as a business as I want to check my own identity. So I sent myself a request as being the business to my own email address. And I got a message saying, all right, you know, put your details in. And then it matches with all of these different databases, a tenancy database, a property register, a driver's license one. And I could see on a number of them that it failed the test. And then on a couple it passed. And overall it gave me as the individual saying, yes, this identity is who this person says it is. What would it have sent back to the business? So how does that handshake between me providing the details and then your service providing the answer back to the lawyer or the bank? Because obviously I was making this company up as a pretend company, so I didn't get to fully experience that side of the transaction.
Yeah, certainly. So how it would work is a business has the flexibility to either send their client an SMS to complete their name, date of birth, address, and then do a facial recognition check. Or they can do the first component, the identity check, and then just trigger the face match to, I guess, have a less input from the client, which is always better. But once it's completed, the business will receive a report that, as you said, shows the different databases that we reached out to, which ones we were able to find a match for that particular client, which ones we weren't. And then it will also have a face match report attached, which will show photos of them that they took, a photo of their government identity document, and then it will give an overall breakdown of the different checks that we do for the face match component as well. So making sure that the document's valid, that it hasn't been tampered with, that it isn't expired, and that the information on that ID document matches the initial identity check. And we also store that in the dashboard for our clients for 5 years. So it means that when it comes to auditing purposes, they have all that information in one centralized platform.
That's a lot of work you're taking off those that have this compliance burden. What does the pricing mechanism look like? Who pays for this simplification that RealAML's delivering?
Yeah, it varies. It's probably 50-50. A lot of our businesses absorb the cost, and that's often because we are so affordable. And then some of them will just simply pass the cost on. It's really up to the business. Businesses that pass the cost on, their client doesn't mind at all, because at the end of the day, for a full identity check of name, date of birth, address, a politically exposed persons check, and a facial recognition check is only $9 plus GST. So if a business asked me, would you prefer to pay $9 plus GST, or would you prefer to drive 30 minutes across town just to drop a passport and utility bill for me to take copies of, I'd certainly take the former option. From day one, we've been really passionate about being affordable and being really sort of frictionless. So having a really user-friendly platform, but without the price tag. So we're one of the only operators in our space that is subscription free. We don't have any contractual period. We don't have any minimum monthly spend. It's purely just pay as you go. So the reason that we're passionate about that is because it works for small businesses, and often they're the ones who can't afford technology like this. So regardless of the size of a business, they can all afford a tool like this. Because if you're only doing one check a month, you only pay for that check. If you are quiet for a month, there's no cost. And that's, I think, something that resonates a lot with small to medium-sized business.
It certainly does, because as great as the SaaS platforms are, you've got to really be logging into them on a regular basis and using the value, or it just becomes another cost to your business that sometimes, and particularly going into difficult times post-COVID, many businesses will be facing. What can they do to reduce their costs? So, if you're using being able to sell yours on a per rather than a per seat basis, a per use basis, it certainly makes it easier. That does bring you some other challenges though, which is how do you get the word out about what is almost a brand new way of identity checking? Like I can't think of I can actually. Probably the closest would be when you're going through border control and there's a face match to make sure that your passport matches the face of you as the human walking through. But how do you go about educating how did you get your first customers?
Oh, we launched March last year, and we were only offering the identity component without the face match. So our customers needed to implement some other mechanism to link their clients to their claimed identity. So with face match, it was something that was requested from existing customers. But how did we get our first client? Was probably from a previous business. So we kind of segued into the identity space from digital forms. And as legislation came in for real estate agents at the start of last year, we were already getting asked by customers who knew that we were really tech focused, fit out that, could we build something for them? And initially it was going to be a side project and a bit of a prototype, which has ended up being our core offering, which is what we're focusing on now. But yeah, the education side of things, I guess what we've tried to do is make something really high tech look low tech to users. We looked at, I guess, other solutions in the market that our competitors were using, and they were sort of reselling overseas products that were a little bit more involved. And we knew that we could simplify the process, but still have a compliant solution. So the feedback has been fantastic. We've only been live for less than 2 weeks now for Face Match, and all the feedback is really user friendly. We even had one of our clients say, "You nearly make AML fun." So, when we hear that kind of feedback, we think we've done a great job in regards to the user experience, which is important to us.
So you're really at that early stage of basically getting Kiwis to understand what's out there in terms of the ability to match their identity to make transactions easier. I would say that the legal firms and the banks and the wealth managers and anyone who's doing this on a regular basis, you'll probably want to sign up and get onto your books to be able to offer this. What was the compelling reason for joining New Zealand Made at the same time that you were launching this service? So, a couple of weeks ago, we got an application through. What was going through your mind, saying that you wanted to make sure that this was New Zealand Made software that you were representing?
Well, I guess we wanted that recognition that from day one we've been focused on building our solutions locally and not using overseas plugins to get the job done, which is a bit of a catch-22 because it meant that we couldn't hit the ground running with a full suite of products and focus on marketing. We kind of did it in reverse to everyone else, which was focus on building all the products, making sure of our staff were within New Zealand. And the reason why we wanted to get that accreditation of New Zealand Made is we felt we deserved the recognition of building everything locally, as opposed, I guess, to sort of, just reselling overseas products, which would, in effect, cause our costs to be higher. So everyone, needs to pay more. So we can offer, the most affordable identity solution with biometrics in New Zealand due to the fact that we've built it locally.
And it's not often you hear that. You hear a lot about actually the opposite. If you're buying local in a country, it often costs more. And getting software developers isn't that easy in New Zealand. How did you solve that part?
Yeah, we get asked that a lot. We're very, very fortunate that, we've given our developers equity. And I think that's one of the big factors in being able to retain really, high-level developers without having to sort of pay huge price tags. So that's probably the key to keeping good sort of staff, and I guess attracting and retaining local developers is giving them a bit of skin in the game. I find definitely goes a long way. If you're just paying someone a salary, you know, if somebody offers them a better salary, what's going to stop them jumping ship? Whereas when they have equity, they really have a vested interest in sticking around.
Very true. And if you can keep on your developers from an early time, you've got real sovereignty over the code base and heritage of understanding of what's actually been coded, because no matter how well commented it is, it's always easier to keep it in the hands of the people that originally built it if you can. How much do you think that Kiwis care about the data sovereignty part of it? Dealing with a company that's doing identity software that's New Zealand based versus one that's overseas. Do you think businesses care about where their clients' data goes? Does that come up in the conversations when people are talking to you?
Yeah, no, it does. People often ask, "Are you going to be reusing my data?" Which is a definite no. The information that's provided by a client for an ID check is just used for that particular check. And I think, not just Kiwis, but most people, it doesn't matter where you're from, they have a higher level of confidence knowing that they're doing business with another local business and that their data is kept in New Zealand. So I think the answer to that question is yes, Kiwis care, but so do people from around the world. I think there's just a higher level of trust doing business locally.
I think you're right. I think as you see in the media that some people in America are surprised that TikTok data actually goes back to China, and there's a terms of service saying that data can be used for whatever the owner of that organization deems appropriate. And sometimes these T's and C's aren't that easy to read either, particularly for the social networks. So it creates, opportunity for businesses like yours to actually be transparent and say, this is what we do with it. This is where we do, where we use it, and how we destroy it afterwards. Particularly for some of these types of transactions, right? These are, would you say, like property transactions? These are business loans. These are quite closely held transactions that you don't want that data getting in between a third party that's taking it offshore.
Oh, exactly, yeah. And I'm not sure about you, but I've never used TikTok. Don't plan on it. When
I say we, I mean me. I've secured the BuyNZ made domain, so we've got our username on there. Because as with all these things, we laugh at them to start with. Facebook's just for uni students, and Instagram's just for photographers, and LinkedIn's just for people looking for jobs. And before you know it, TikTok, your grandma will be on it, talking to grandkids on, as the new Skype or Zoom. So these things always tend to age up over time.
Well, it's funny. I think my grandmother will probably be using TikTok before I do. Anyway, she's very tech savvy. I had a client actually this morning report back on FaceMatch and say, he thought it was an amazing product, but he wasn't sure whether some of his elderly customers would be able to use it. And I said, well, my grandmother was one of our first testers. She's 87 and passed with flying colours, so I think that's a testament.
Sorry to interrupt. This won't take long. Subscribe to the show and you'll never miss another one of these amazing episodes. Right, back to the show. Exactly, and I think that the historical kind of rules around age, when you hit 65, it's over. That's all shifted because, I know with my mum or my family that are retired, they're masters of their iPhones. And if you can master an app and the app is designed in a way where you don't have to think about what to do, or the system works, whether it's a web-based app or a native app, then you use it. And everyone's got text message, right? And everyone knows how to click on a link. So it's never been easier for, and I think we've seen that via lockdown, for people to use technology like Zoom to be able to catch up when we need to. There's opportunities to leverage it, and you certainly have with FaceMatch.
Yeah, we will. Just for, I guess, our identity checks during, month on month, May to June, we saw a massive increase. And I think a lot of it was due to COVID, and people were reevaluating efficiencies within a business. And because they were forced to go digital for meetings such as Zoom, they then thought, okay, well, this is quite simple. Where else can we implement these kind of efficiencies? And I don't think it's going to be a one-off that people look back in a year and go, that was just a COVID period. I kind of see the similarities to when they talk about people working from home. I hear and know firsthand that a lot of people are still working from home. And even if they're not, they're doing a bit of a hybrid of a couple of days in the office a week and at home. And I think it's going to be the same when it comes to digital transformation and using frictionless and paperless tools.
Completely. I think that when you shift to a new way of working, it's hard to go back to the old way when there's material benefits. Like as soon as I had tried that face match with I had a skeptical mind, and then the email comes, I log in, I put my details in, and then it goes, you're verified. I wouldn't normally refer business straight on, but I looked at it and went, I know that the compliance manager at a friend of mine's company, I know how many he goes through of this. So, but he's not using it. This will just save, like it delegates almost the responsibility to his clients. It's going to take a whole lot of work off him, so he can actually manage some of the bigger risks of the business. Now let's talk about the export side of it, because New Zealand is known for being number one out of 190 countries for being the easiest to do business in. What would it, or have you considered the export side of it to make it easier to do business in other countries with this New Zealand-made software that you've launched?
Yeah, no, certainly. We've got global plans, and we currently have partners overseas in regards to data providers. So we can currently identify Kiwis, but we can also identify residents in 13 other countries. So if you're located in Australia, UK, China, US, Canada, Singapore, we can send an SMS to a client located there and verify them as well. So whilst we've got those data partners, we haven't actually expanded the product into those countries. We just access their data to be able to run ID checks. But we're certainly looking at having footprints in those countries, particularly Australia, once their AML legislation catches up with New Zealand. New Zealand has some of the most sort of advanced legislation in the world, and Australia's been talking about implementing similar legislation. When they do, we'll certainly look at expanding and having a presence over there. But for now, we're really happy to focus on doing business in New Zealand. And a lot of companies, a lot of banks, financial firms, lawyers, and real estate just don't even know about us yet, because we're only a little over a year old, and the majority of that time has been spent on development. It's only within the past couple of weeks that we have a full suite of products that we're happy to now really go to market with. So I think particularly the rest of the year, we'll be doing a sort of big push and letting every business in New Zealand know that there is an option to shop locally that's affordable.
I love it, and I'm super glad that we've got to talk so early on in that launch phase of your business, because it's going to help so many other businesses reduce that red tape. Jordan, what got you into this area initially? Because it doesn't actually sound that fun, right? Like, it's compliance, it's regulation, it's anti-money laundering. Like it's quite a you got to want to do it. What got you into this being the thing that Jordan McCown wanted to do?
I guess I like solving problems and creating new things. So this is a combination of the two. We're creating brand new software that's never been built before in New Zealand, and we're solving real life problems that businesses have, not just businesses, but consumers have when it comes to the burdens of identity. My background's actually finance, so I had a stockbroking firm about 5 years ago, and how I guess parlayed into the tech industry is I was looking for a solution within my previous business that would digitize PDF forms. So we had a lot of paperwork involved when we were onboarding a new customer, sometimes 20, 30 pages worth. And it just delayed, obviously, the onboarding time. So I was looking for a solution that would convert a PDF document into a responsive web form with e-signatures. So, for example, similar to the face match, you'd be sent an SMS or an email. You could jump on your mobile, fill out some details, e-sign with your finger, submit that form. We would then receive a populated PDF without you ever seeing a PDF or having to print it or physically, scan it or sign it. And I didn't see a solution out there that existed. And so I'm not sure why, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to hang up my finance boots and build this solution, which I did, and learn a lot on the way. And I've stayed in tech the entire time because it's just been an amazing journey building new products and looking for solutions that haven't been solved yet. And it is fun because, you're working with really talented developers who are coding things for the first time. You're dealing with early adopters, getting their feedback, iterating and then relaunching and updating, and it's a continual process. You never just build a product and forget about it. It's continually being updated. We're always looking for ways to innovate, always working with clients to give us feedback. So we get that a lot. People say, it's not really a sexy space, AML and identity, but as one of our clients just said, we nearly make AML fun. And that was probably one of the best compliments I'd heard over the past year. So I guess, that's how I've come into the space. And I think from a business perspective too, I think it is quite a stable industry to be in because it's regulation. It's not going away. Regulation is only going to expand across the globe.
It's an area that I find is that it is quite sexy because that as soon as a regulation goes live, that you don't need to sell your product. You just need to advise people in that industry that here are the fines or here are the risks if you're not compliant, and let them decide whether they want to take those risks or mitigate the risks with your solution, which is in this case software. What's interesting about your story there is that coming from the stockbroker side, you've personally felt those inefficiencies or personally felt what it was like when there was a drag time of a couple of weeks before someone could get trading with you because of paperwork that was meaningless unless it didn't check out. And I think one of the jumps that many people don't make, even when they can scratch their own itch like this, is like it's hard to develop software because you've got to code the business rules, and if you're not the developer, finding those people and then communicating with them to build your company, that's a whole different project from solving the problem in the first place.
Oh, 100%, yeah. And I've, not with this particular venture, RealAML, but with previous startups that I've worked on, I've made several mistakes. And one of the biggest mistakes, not some mistakes, I guess one of the biggest lessons, I always like to turn a mistake around, but would be if you don't have a tech background, you need to sort of found a new project with someone who has that tech background. And so I was fortunate that I knew a really highly skilled developer. And so we co-founded RealAML together, as opposed to someone just being salaried, which inevitably will find a more lucrative or a more interesting gig somewhere else. So,
it's that, as you were saying, it's that skin in the game to make sure that you're on that journey together.
That's definitely, if anyone is thinking about getting into the tech space without a tech background, definitely partner with someone who is a coder.
Did you at any point early on build the code out, like contract it out to an agency or to someone to do like the early or did you work on that early prototype? No,
we did outsource overseas just the prototype because at the time my development team was working on another project and I wanted to just check the viability of it. So yeah, we did build a very simple prototype within 3 to 4 weeks just to get that market validation, which we did. And then we brought our local team pivoted what we're working on at that time to what we thought was going to be a side project, which is now our bread and butter and what we love doing.
It's such an awesome story, and I know that when we check back on the progress of RealAML and how many times someone's done a face match, that you will have grown it probably exponentially, because there is what you're protecting, those transactions are highly valuable, and there is a need to protect New Zealand and New Zealand businesses. There's never been such a amount of overseas threats to how we do business here, because there's no borders. When you're in a digital first world, anyone can jump into a Zoom call, anyone can jump in between a transaction. So we need organizations like yourselves to help protect New Zealand businesses against those things happening.
Yeah, no, certainly. And I'm looking forward to chatting with you again in 6 or 12 months to report back on the growth. We're just starting to see it explode. We had a 300% increase on digital identity checks from March to June, and we can continue to see that grow.
So if someone's listening to this, Jordan, and works at a bank or stockbrokers or at a legal firm as a partner and thinks, all right, this is what we're going to do, what's the next step they should be taking with you?
So we offer a free trial. So anyone, as you would have seen, can go to our website and within a couple of seconds get access to our platform and run a free check. So they can actually see how the process works. So I always find it frustrating when I'm looking for a new tool where you've got to book a demo initially to access the system, or you've got to, it's often it's often ironic that you have to fill out paperwork to then use an online product. We make sure that our onboarding process for a business is similar to the identity process, fast and frictionless. So if any business within New Zealand would like to, evaluate an affordable and frictionless identity product, all they need to do is go to realaml.com and they can enter their information, just an email address and trading name, and they can get instant access to our platform and actually run a free check and test out face match.
Try it for yourself and then roll it out across your organization. Or if you're one of those early innovator individuals, introduce it to the business that you're always having to show your driver's license or passport to, notarized by 3 dozen people that you don't know, but you have to walk around town to get signatures for and track down the latest justice of the peace who's now moved house. It does away with all of that, doesn't it? It makes it something where it's just expected. And you think, with all the technology that goes into our phone, it's actually great to know that you're leveraging some of that to deliver the service.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it just negates the need to get ID documents certified to even produce them to a business. It's the way of the future. Identification in the cloud.
It's that finally we've got that paperless office. It might actually become a reality thanks to your organization, Jordan.
Well, we've got a rule no printers in the office, so we've got to lead by example.
You do, absolutely. Hey, thank you very much for your time today and sharing what RealAML is up to. For those that are listening, the website to check out your own face match is realaml.com, and then you'll be able to go on there and get your identity checked. So to make sure that next transaction you're doing either with the bank or the law firm, the accountant, if they're asking, hey, we need to check your identity, let them know about realaml.com and say, this is how I want my ID to be checked, because then it's going to be faster and efficient for both sides of the transaction. This has been a Kiwi original brought to you by the New Zealand Made team. Thanks for watching. The New Zealand Made trademark is used by over 1,200 businesses in New Zealand. The New Zealand Made team licenses that trademark. Check if you're eligible at bynz.org.nz. If you feel that someone should see this, share it with them now. Otherwise, subscribe to youtube.com/bynzmade, and we'll see you on the next episode.